Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Thursday, October the 17th. And welcome to our commentary. Well, I've had a couple of opportunities here in the last couple of days to go on national Spanish television. Today, I had an interview with a network, an internet network. Oh, I think they're over the air too. They're part of the Voz Media effort, and we talked a little bit about Harris over at Fox News and Trump at Univision. And then yesterday, I had an opportunity to talk to them again. They had me back to back a couple of days as part of a panel, so I got pretty excited about that. So very nice people. An old friend of mine who used to work with Telemundo as well as Univision is now working with them over there. So I guess he remembered that I could talk a little politics, so he invited me to join him, and it's been a real treat to be with him. Well, yes, of course, Vice President Harris was over at Fox News, and I think her intention for doing this, my guess, is that she was being told that you have to do serious interviews because you're not coming across as a serious person. That's not my idea. That's Andrea Mitchell of NBC News a couple of weeks ago said that. And as it turned out, she did go on Fox News and she looked completely like a fish out of water. She didn't have any answers. It's kind of hard for me to believe that she doesn't have a better grasp of the issues. You don't have to be, a great speaker or anything like that, but you should at least have a grasp of the issues and be able to talk about the issues in a serious way. And she just doesn't seem to have that ability. She had to know that she was going to get a question about illegal immigration. Had to know that she was going to get a question about the border and the death of these young women, the economy, and so on. She had to know that. She had to know that she was going to get a question about all these different positions that she's had over the years that she now says that she has changed. And she just seemed totally, completely unprepared. At one point, she was starting to get mad. You could just see the change in personality. And I don't think it went well for her. I thought Brett Baer was very diplomatic, and I think he did a very good job of asking questions and following up on questions. And now I understand that some people in her campaign are saying that this was some kind of an ambush of Kamala Harris. I don't believe people. People don't see that. I mean, you have to be a real fanatic and a real, I guess, you have to be obsessed with Trump derangement syndrome to think that Brett Baer, who has a very good reputation in the business, did an ambush of Kamala Harris. No, he didn't. He asked some very good questions. Unfortunately, she couldn't answer them. And the reason she couldn't answer them is because you cannot memorize all these things. You know, this is not a multiple choice exam that she's taking. This is more like an essay type of exam where you have to write out things and you have to explain things. And she, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to have a grasp of these issues. For example, when they started talking about the numbers of people who have entered the country, and would she at least admit that it was a bad idea to change some of the policies that were there before? She could have hit that one out of the park. A more qualified person would have hit that question out of the park. It would have been something like this. You know what, Brett, yes, you're right. We made some mistakes. Our intentions were good. In other words, we were trying to help people come here from countries where they have whatever type of regimes or abuses of human rights. So we were trying to help these people. So our intentions were good for letting them in, but we didn't do a good job of checking their backgrounds. And maybe we didn't do a good job of controlling the number of people coming into the country. So we could have done it better without necessarily throwing the whole program out of, the whole baby out with the water, as they say. She could have at least taken some responsibility, criticized the program or the execution of the program, say, yeah, we meant well. We wanted to do something good here, but, it didn't work out. It didn't work out like we thought. So we just have to, we have to plan it differently the next time around. But there's no question that we didn't do a good job. That would have been, she would have hit the ball out of the park with that answer. The other point that came up was about these young women who've been killed, in which she apologized to the families. She should have apologized to the families. She should have said, look, obviously, we didn't mean for this to happen, but we're accountable. We take responsibility. It happened on our watch. And yes, we apologize to you for what happened. And we want to assure all the other parents in the country that we're going to do our best so that it doesn't happen again by vetting these people better. So she was given tough questions, but she could have answered them in a way, show a little humility, accept a little responsibility, and say, yeah, we're going to try to do it better. We could have done it better. I think had she done that, it would have been a much better interview than what it was. It was very hostile at one point because she didn't want to answer questions. As I understand from Brett Baer, her people were telling Baer to stop the interview or conclude it. I don't know what kind of arrangements they had. As I also understand that she showed up late. So, you know, they wanted to do, I think, 30 minutes, but she showed up late. So they started late to begin with, and then they wanted to cut the interview early. So he had questions that he never got to. And I think Brett Baer did a good job. I expected him to do a good job. And all I can tell you is that Kamala Harris is probably not going to do a lot of these interviews again. I think they're pretty much done with that. I think they've done their interview as far as Kamala Harris is concerned. And now I understand she may be going to Joe Rogan. I cannot see that happening. Because if you think, you know, Brett Baer was asking her tough questions, I mean, Joe Rogan doesn't care what he does. I mean, he's as they call him, you know, he's going to just say whatever comes to his mind, and he's going to be polite and respectful to the vice president, of course, but he's going to be asking some pretty tough questions. So I don't expect her to go on Joe Rogan anytime soon. I don't know if they've committed to that, but if they've committed to it, that's going to be an even bigger mistake than going on with Brett Baer. Bottom line, she is not prepared for these interviews. She doesn't understand the issues. She doesn't have a grasp of the issues. And it's not a question of memorizing answers. Not a question of memorizing answers. It's a question of knowing the issue to the extent that we can talk about it. You know, anybody in that position who's been sitting in these meetings in the White House, you know, these security meetings, you got to have a better grasp of the issues that she does. She just doesn't seem to have it. And when confronted with questions, she freaks out. She doesn't know how to do it. So it was a very bad day, I thought, for Kamala Harris. Is it going to matter? I don't think so. I really don't, because I think the people who love her are going to vote for her. The people who hate Trump are going to vote against him. I don't think it's going to have a big impact. Maybe some people will realize that she's not qualified, but Democrats, I think they know that by now. But I don't think they're going to say it publicly. That's all I can tell you. Now, on the other hand, that same evening, Donald Trump went to Univision, and he was there for about an hour. Kamala Harris had also been at Univision, I guess, the week before. And, you know, the program at Univision was okay. The questions were okay. There was nothing bad about the questions. There was one question about undocumented immigrants where I thought President Trump missed an opportunity to talk about an important issue, and that is the fact that many undocumented immigrants are the ones who are working in farms and picking up the food and the fruits and the vegetables or whatever. And I think President Trump should have used that question to remind everybody that it was the Democrats who canceled the Bracero plan that used to exist in the 50s and 60s. That was really a good program to bring in people into the country legally to work in farms and so on. I think we still have a version of the Bracero program. They may not call it Bracero anymore, but something like that. I think we have a version of it. I don't know if it's big enough to handle the needs that we have, but there's no reason why we couldn't bring in people to work in farms and make it legal. I've always supported that. I mean, that makes sense for both sides, but he didn't mention that. And I thought that was an opportunity for President Trump to show that he could actually make the immigration situation in the country better by bringing back a program that brought people legally into the country and made them work, and then they go home. They go home with money, which is what they want. They want to work and they want to make money. Nothing wrong with that. If you want to come to the United States and make money, that's okay. And if we have the opening, hey, take it. I have no problem with that, as long as everything is being done legally. Because when you don't do it legally, then you create all kinds of unintended consequences, like crime, like family breakups, and all of those things that we see happening. So I thought I thought his visit at Univision was okay. I give him maybe a B plus. I thought it was fine, but I really think he missed the opportunity with that question to remind everybody about that at one time we had a plan that was created for that need of bringing people to work in many of these farms. I have a post. At the American Thinker today talking about the Cruz-Abbott debate, which I thought was a huge victory for Ted Cruz. But again, is it going to change any minds? I don't know. But clearly, Ted Cruz has an advantage of about 5 points. If you look at the RCP average, he's got an advantage of about 5 points. That would be 52-47 if that was translated into election results. I keep thinking, I've been saying for some time, that that's where I think the campaign's going to be, the election's going to be. It's going to be 52-47, 53-46. That's what it's going to be with Ted Cruz winning re-election, 52%, 53%. The key for me, the wild card for me, is what's going to happen with Donald Trump and what's going to be the number of votes that Donald Trump gets. I've seen some, polls that say that Trump is going to get 6%. I've seen others that show him at 10%. If he gets 10%, that's going to help tremendously Ted Cruz. That's going to probably mean that instead of getting 5, he could end up getting 7% of the vote, maybe even 8% of the vote. Trump can push many Republicans out of the vote. Probably will, because he's a very popular Republican right now in Texas. Interesting contrast here. We have Trump, who's extremely popular in Texas, and Cruz, who can't seem to, as they say, he can't seem to get the kind of turnout that other Republicans get, whether it's Abbott, whether it's Cornyn. They do much better than him in these elections. And so what does that mean? And can Cruz turn that around? We'll see. We'll see. I do think he's going to win. And I think the margin of victory is going to depend a great deal on President Trump and what kind of numbers President Trump gets to on election day. And again, it could be 10 points. And if it's 10 points, I think Cruz wins easily. I mean, very easily. Well, thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.